I'd like to call the emergency meeting to order. At this time, we'd like to ask Councilman Brian Tabor to lead us in prayer and Councilman Gilbo to lead us in a pledge.
Bless this meeting, Father God. Give us the wisdom we need, Father God, to run the business of this parish and city. And we thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all so much for coming out here. We'd like to welcome you to our Lafayette Parish Council meeting. As presiding officer and chair, I'd like to announce the following. This is a public hearing. To address the council on any item on the agenda, please fill out the request form and submit it to the clerk prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given an opportunity to speak. Staff is available for assistance if needed. Items for submission to the council should be handled and handed to Ms. Veronica Williams, clerk, seated to my left and in the middle. When addressing the council, state your name and title for the official record. We do have a 5-minute rule that will be in effect. There will be no debating or confrontational statements that will be allowed. The front row to my left is used for media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and we ask that you please silence all cell phones, electronic devices. Meeting procedures are by resolution and not by Robert's Rules of Order. And all documents with reference to today's meeting can be found on Lafayette Consolidated Government website. And finally, the council encourages your involvement in boards and commissions. If anyone is interested, we ask that you call 291-8800. Chair announcements. There are proposed amendments to both ordinances. Emergency Ordinance PO 010-2020 and Introductory Ordinance PO 011-2020 to add the budget revision to the ordinance. This is probably not related to the meeting, but I'm going to give council, use chair privileges this time to give the floor to Councilman Gilmo for a quick announcement in regarding to Johnson Street and some media that was released that might have confused a bunch of people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, some of you may have gotten the notice that DOTD, we've been working on Johnson Street and making all the improvements from the Acadiana Mall to Maurice. The outside lanes have been closed for months, and that work has been completed on the shoulders and the lighting and so forth. Now they're moving to the inside. It was released through the media that both lanes in both directions would be closed for the next 4 months. That is not so. We have contacted the media with the help of Joseph, and they have already made a correction to that, and there will only be the inside lanes that will be closed and not the outside. So if anyone's asking, we can still use Johnson. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move right along. Emergency ordinance. This is a public hearing, and blue sheets are available for anyone wishing to address the council. There is a 5-minute rule that is in effect and does apply. Before moving to the ordinance, I will defer to legal to explain why this is needed today as in regards to emergency meeting. So at this time, I'm going to give the floor to our legal department. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, because of a report commissioned by the Department of Public Works, it had been determined that the condition of the parking garage had deteriorated to such a condition that there was an imminent danger of injury to property or person in that immediate area. And so as a result of that knowledge and condition of the garage, under the charter, section 214 allows this council to adopt an emergency ordinance, and also under the charter in Article 5, it also allows for emergency appropriations related to the adoption of that emergency ordinance. And so that's why we're here today.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Jeremy, can you please read?
Parish Ordinance 10-2020. An emergency ordinance of the Lafayette Parish Council declaring and certifying a public emergency, providing for the removal of concrete panels from the Buchanan Street parking garage and providing for amending the fiscal year 1920 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by authorizing the use of courthouse complex funds in the parish general fund in the amount of $400,000 for the cost of such emergency work.
Okay, need a motion and a second to consider.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Gilbo and second by Councilman Tabor. There is a proposed amendment to add to the budget revision to the ordinance backup. I need a motion and a second to consider that proposed amendment.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Gilbo, second by Councilman Carlson. Any council discussions on the amendment? I have one right quick. Administration, I'll make you Mike Hott, Mayor President. When it says 400,000 coming from the parish fund, where are we exactly getting that money from? Because I know we only have about 40 or 50,000 in reserve in the general fund. So is that coming from the courthouse complex fund? Or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and also we have a presentation for the council and the public.
Okay.
But it is coming from the courthouse complex fund. This is the only fund, or the only source of funding that we have legally available to us outside of the general fund, which as you noted, does not have the funding in there to support this. We also have exercised or exhausted all remedies through the state, through the emergency that's available to us, and there are none at this time. And because of the threat to life and property, we are asking the council to move that funding from the courthouse complex.
Okay. Just wanted an explanation. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No.
All right. Ms. Williams, any comment on the discussion or on the amendment, or both?
We do have 4 speakers signed in.
Okay.
You ready for the speakers?
Sure.
On the amendment only, and it's a budget revision, you could pass if you do not want to speak to the amendment. You will be allotted the opportunity to speak before the ordinance is voted on. So this is only for the amendment. Scott Freeland?
And Ms. Williams, before Mr. Scott comes, go ahead, hit the button. I'm sorry, I didn't see Councilman Rubin for discussion. Go ahead, Councilman Rubin, you have the floor.
So, Mayor President, before we start asking all these questions to you, you're going to present a presentation to us, you were saying?
Yes, Councilman.
Okay, well, I'll save it. Hopefully you answer before I have to, so I don't have to ask.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Williams, call, okay.
Scott
State-
Freeland?
Okay, state your name for the official record, please.
My name is Scott Feehan. I'm the Executive Director of Festival International de Louisiane.
Okay.
So, Mayor President, members of the council, thank you so much for recognizing the urgency of this matter. Certainly, there's several considerations. I'd like to briefly speak about the concerns from Festival International's perspective. This garage, I'm guessing most of you understand it borders one of our main main anchor points of our event. It's not just one of the main anchor points. It's the only stage that's open all 5 days. It's the entry point. It's where the shuttles drop off tens of thousands of people daily to our event. If something did happen and we spent last summer several months going into the fall going through a what-if analysis, mainly around the challenges that the construction across the street were posing with the old federal courthouse. And I can tell you, going through that analysis with 6 to 8 months of planning, there were no good option Bs for us, to plan around this area. And certainly with 44 days to go, there's even fewer options. Just to put it into perspective, last year on Friday, we pinged mobile devices. If you know the RFID system that we use, we're finally able to have some sort of grasp on how many people do come to the event. On Friday last year, we pinged right around 100,000 mobile devices on site. Saturday was 170,000, and Sunday was around 90,000. So, like I said, this is a major challenge for us. Like I said, I certainly appreciate you guys recognizing the urgency for many reasons. Like I said, obviously from our perspective, I just wanted to at least make you aware of the challenges that we'll deal with. So, I think with that, thank you so much.
All right. Councilman Gilbo, you have the floor.
Mr. Freeman, I have a question. What's the direct impact, other than, I understand the danger, But in terms of your operations, if we do secure this building or this garage, then you're okay with your, I mean, that many people in the vicinity is risky.
Right, yeah, and certainly we're not proposing that we do anything that would put people's lives in danger. But yes, if we're able to secure this building, we've already made adjustments to our footprint to overcome some of the challenges of the old federal courthouse. So if we can secure this area, then we can proceed as planned.
And if we do proceed, I certainly would hope that the protective barricade that will be hopefully put up will also give you that protection that you need. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Lisa Stafford on the budget revision. She passes. Virgil Buzz Reed on the budget revision. He passes. Van Gotro.
Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm with Keller Williams, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we have a piece of property available for a potential new parking lot or replacement, 716 Lafayette Street. It is 1.26 acres. It's adjacent to the federal courthouse and across Lafayette Street from the Lafayette Public Library. My client's willing to do a lease or a purchase. I know that with the absence of the Buchanan Street parking tower, that downtown is going to be in serious need of some type of temporary or permanent replacement. So just wanted to go on record and let you guys know that that land is available.
Okay, thank you. Mayor President, you got note of that?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, there are no more speakers, but we do have, for the amendment, you guys already made a motion and a second to amend it just to add the budget revision to it. But there is another amendment in the title, if you look at the title on the screen, just to take out the words in the second to last line, in the parish general fund.
Yeah.
Of course, because we just established that it comes from the courthouse complex.
Okay.
So we need to take that out just in the title. So if Mr. Gilbo and Mr. Carlson would allow that to be added to the amendment.
I'm amenable to that.
Okay. We have a motion.
So we'll add that.
Yeah, we have a motion
Thank
and a
you.
second by Carlson. Okay. All right. So right now we need to call the vote on the amendment as amended. No, on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Okay.
District 1,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5. Yes. Motion to amend is approved.
Okay. Any council discussion on the ordinance as amended?
I think the Mayor President has the presentation before.
Presentation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. At this time, Mayor President, I'll go ahead and give you and your staff the floor, and your mic is on, dear, if you need to talk. You don't want to talk? You sure?
Oh, she's talking.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilman, and my sincere apologies for being a few minutes late. I missed the pledge and the prayer, so I appreciate your promptness, and I apologize for my tardiness. Also with me today are several members of the administration, from Director of Traffic, Roads, and Bridges to Public Works to our legal team, Chief of Staff, Chief Administrative Officer, and Chief Financial Officer, along with myself. And again, thank you to you gentlemen for making time to be here on this very serious matter, and thank you to members of the public and the media to join us here in the mid-afternoon. I know everybody's busy, but clearly this is a serious situation. This is a situation where there's threat to life and to property, and Mr. Trahan and Public Works can speak more clearly on that in that regard. Let's talk about a timeline. Towards the end of January 2020, and the timeline refers to only the emergency at hand, not the structure as a whole, but we'll answer any questions on that. But towards the end of January 2020, Director Warren Abity of Traffic, Roads, and Bridges raised some serious concerns about the safety of the parking garage in general. Director Abity reached out to Fred Trahan, who's sitting by Mr. Abity in the audience. Fred conducted a visual inspection of the garage and agreed that we needed an additional engineering assessment regarding the concrete panels. Following the receipt of the assessment, Fred advised the administration on March 5th, 2020, last week, of the seriousness of the situation of the threat to human life and property. The day after, March 6, 2020, I declared an emergency and barricaded the perimeter, and I called for this emergency meeting. Currently, the perimeter set is 15 to 20 feet around the Buchanan Street parking garage. That may be extended here in the near future. At this time, in regards to traffic, one lane of traffic on the Buchanan Street is blocked. Both lanes directly in front of the parking garage will be blocked shortly. In regards to power, LUS is in the process of rerouting and de-energizing the power associated with the structure. And also with us is the interim director of LUS, Mr. Lowell Duyon. Above, you can see on the screens are a few examples of the clips holding the concrete panels. Let's see here. So this is the top part of the clip. Now, the pictures here are the clips holding these massive blocks of concrete. We're talking 5,000 to 7,000 pounds of concrete that's on the exterior. But this is a glimpse on the top part of these clips. On the next slide, you'll see this is the bottom. This is just one example of one of the clips, again, holding 5,000 to 7,000 pounds of concrete. That's deteriorating. There's corrosion. So pretty serious situations. The panels have been assessed as severe, advanced, and minor in regards to their concern of failure, red being severe, advanced blue, minor green. So blue, you may be thinking friendly, but that does not, it's still the middle grade of seriousness here. But as you notice, this is the southern part of the Buchanan Street parking garage. As you can see, a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic, pedestrians walking across the southern part of the structure. And some of the more severe panels are right here on the corner of Buchanan, and then this parking side right here. Next slide, please. This is the northern side of the structure. This is the opposite side. And as you can see, again, a lot of severe corrosion. More of our severe panels on this side as well. Next slide. This is the side that many of the court personnel will see most of the time. So again, it may not look as serious, but again, this right here is that middle grade. It's advanced. And right on the corner there, you have a structure, and you have a lot of foot traffic right here. Next slide. This is the slide that a lot of our communities used to, familiar with. This is the side that festival goes on, has the mural right here. Again, a lot of advanced deterioration, a lot of advanced corrosion, heavy pedestrian traffic on this side as well. All right. Now, we discussed funding earlier, and we can answer any questions that you have on this. I would like to call Mr. Trahan to the microphone, because I feel like a lot of the questions that you may have may be dealing with engineering, and Fred's a lot more capable of answering those technical questions. Again, though, I want to take this time to tell you how much I appreciate you clearing your schedule this afternoon for taking this matter so serious. We're all here because we care about our community, and we don't want anything to happen to any of our members of our community, threat to life, threat to property. So again, I appreciate you understanding the seriousness of this situation. That said, we'll answer any questions you have.
All right. Councilman Tabor, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Trahan, these panels, I'm assuming, are to keep people from running over, coming off the edge, right?
That, and they were also an aesthetic addition to
They're structure side to side. So the bottom, the surface structure, is there any, any
the
depth?
columns and beams do show some deterioration that is being advanced until we remove these panels. What happens is the rain goes into the opened areas, and it's trapped from coming out of the building by these panels, and it just sits there in a wet condition, continuing the deterioration. I believe that the structure is salvageable in terms of without the panels, but we won't know that until we actually remove them, do some investigative sandblasting and things of that nature.
So the base, we could assume it's pretty
A
sound?
large portion of the structure is still salvageable at this time.
Okay.
But the deterioration, the rate of deterioration is very concerning to me as an engineer.
One more question, I guess that's for you. We, if, you know, we got a price to demo the panels. That same contractor, does he give us a price to demo the whole thing in case we find it, the whole structure not soundable? In other words, you know, it costs you a little bit less if you can get in there and do it all at one time. I hope we don't have to. I hope we can rebuild it, but Just a question.
I'm assuming your "you" is directed to me
Yeah,
and not to Lori. Okay.
no.
Because I'm going to direct it to, no, I'm kidding.
When y'all took the bid, did they bid?
Yeah, it was, well, it's my understanding that we have a bid or a suggested price, an estimated
Oh,
price
so
of
it's no, it's estimated, okay.
estimated on $1 million to demolish. Is that correct? We don't know. Okay, so we don't know, Councilman.
Okay.
I do know this, though. We assessed it at 400,000. Our hope is to get it underneath that number, but that's a very safe assessment, and we'll do everything we can to get it underneath as low of a price as we can. Our number one concern here is safety, and then securing the funds to implement measures that will make sure that our community is safe, and that's what we're doing.
Understand, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Rubin, you have the floor.
Okay. So you tear down the walls.
The concrete, precast concrete panels, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm sorry, the panels.
And
Use a proper term, the panels.
And we would say removing them.
Remove, okay, we're gonna remove the panels. How safe is the building then?
We believe that it's most likely salvageable, but, and to address Mr. Tabor's also comment, is that the reason why we don't want an alternate bid of demolishing it is we do believe that it will be salvageable, but that's only gonna be verified after we can remove the panels and more of the structure can be looked at, in particular the columns that we can't see because of the installation of these concrete panels.
So, once we remove the panels, is there a possibility we can use that garage again as is?
With, no, with repairs.
How much would,
With repairs,
with repairs?
yes.
Did y'all figure a number on the repairs?
No, and that's what I'm saying. We have to remove the panels to fully assess what we would have to repair. And it may come down to the fact where it may require demolition at some point in time, but there's an excess of 1 million pounds of panels hanging on that structure right now, and by some very corroded clips. So of the immediate nature and concern is our removal of that weight off the structure.
Okay. How fast will this process take?
It will either go
Or should
real
I say
fast.
how long? I'm sorry. Better words, how long will this process take?
It will go either really fast or really slow. We believe that it could be done as fast as 30 days. If we do have some issues with some of the areas and access and things that would slow down the operation, it could double that for sure.
Okay.
Councilman, it's our hope in an ideal situation that we have all the panels removed before Festival International. We anticipate work
That's
being...
pretty much what I was trying to ask.
No, I
trying
know.
to figure.
And I think these are good questions too, genuinely. And also just to remind everybody that the threat assessment is to the panels, not to the structure itself, because we've had some questions, some call-in questions on that as well. So the structure is not necessarily our concern. It's these heavy 5,000 to 7,000 pound concrete panels. And you saw the corrosion and deterioration of the actual, what they call? Clips, brackets that are holding up these panels. But as far as a timeline, if we can start within 2 weeks, I believe, Mr. Trawhall, it's my understanding that assessment, ideally 30 days. But the goal would be to remove the panels before Festival International, starting with all those panels in red first, because we want to remove the threat. And when we prioritize, we're going with the ones that are most severe and working our way down.
Okay, I guess, Ms. Toops, you be the next person I need to ask a question to then. This $400,000, all right, we're getting that monies, and I'm trying to figure, how are we gonna pay that back? Are we gonna put it back, or are we just gonna say we're just gonna take it from them? And what services will be cut out, or are we taking some monies that's obligated to pay, mandated, should I say? Or are we cutting services?
The money for these repairs are proposed in this ordinance to come from the courthouse complex fund balance. So it is remaining funds in the fund balance. Certainly, it will affect something in the future, down the line.
Like?
Because it's less money in that fund. That fund is used to care for all the buildings in that courthouse complex, including operating subsidies for the Adult Correction Center. There's a large amount that goes for the Adult Correction Center. A few weeks ago, I gave a presentation to the council, and a very conservative estimate, because we are undergoing the audit right now, and knowing that we had had some increase in jail expenditures and stuff like that, I wanted to be real conservative. I had estimated that if we finished all of the capital projects in the courthouse and in the jail magically by the end of this fiscal year, which we know never happens, right? Because it takes a while for those capital projects to be completed, that if that were the case and everything was done, we would have $2.5 million in the courthouse complex fund. Now, I'm told today that some of the projects, there's one project in the courthouse complex fund, $1.5 million for asbestos remediation. The Public Works Department tells me they know that that project will not get completed by the end of this fiscal year. So that's additional monies that are available to carry us over. So while the fund is not flush and overflowing with cash, and it certainly doesn't allow for a complete overhaul of the garage, I do believe with the state of emergency that we find ourselves in, that it is a prudent use of that fund balance at this time.
And I don't have a problem with the emergency situation we're in, but we also have to look out for the courthouse people too. Do we have any plans on trying to pay these monies back, or we just gonna just keep it?
I can answer that. Together with this council, I know the administration will work diligently to make sure that we serve all needs of both the courthouse personnel, which I'm very comfortable and close with. But at the end of the day, we have a decision. We do something or we do nothing. You've seen, you have engineer here to tell you the seriousness of it. We've presented evidence of the corrosion, the deterioration, the threat to life, the threat to property. We have a choice as leaders in this community. Do we do something or do we do nothing? I'm bringing it to the council for a vote. I need your support on this to do this. We are co-equal branches of government. I think we all know the seriousness of this situation. It's not a choice I want to make, but sometimes you got to make choices, and it's all about priorities. And right now, my priority is protecting life and protecting property. Yes, this is tough. Yes, there's some questions that we have no clue what the answers are to, and that's okay. But together, we can work together, especially through the budgetary process, to make sure that we fill any gaps to the best that we can and cut wasteful spending so we don't have to raise taxes.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the emergency situation, but I still want to protect. I see some of these people out here looking at me right now, you know. I want to make sure that their best interest is also in there too, you know. I don't want them to be looking at me later on, getting their friends to chase me down the street, you know.
And when I'm faced with situations like this, I want to see their happy faces here too, and not in another situation such as a hospital or even worse. So that's my concern.
That was a good answer. I like
That's
that.
the truthful answer.
Yeah. I'm good.
I haven't, on a previous administration, there was a rough estimate repair option of about $1.7 million from Mr. Robideau's administration on the repair. The total cost, you know, drainage control, $250, exterior panels was $300,000. Beam repairs, $400,000. So basically, the estimated cost to repair and replace this parking garage is $1.7 million, based on what it was in the back. Now, we already know the panels are $400,000. This previous estimate was $300,000. So, you know, one thing we have to be truthful of is this is not wasteful spending, okay? And more things are going to keep happening with the courthouse and the jail and everything else. And we didn't get in that position because of wasteful spending. We got in that position because, as the presentation was given earlier, we as a government have rolled millages down to play popularity. And we have eliminated the opportunity of taking care of situations like this. So what's going to happen is we're going to take the $400,000, which I agree with you, we have to do it. And that's the only place we can get the revenue. But there's going to be something else, and there's going to be something else. And then next thing you know, you're going to have zero availability. You can't cut yourself out of a wet paper bag. At some point, we as a government and administration are going to have to bring everybody to the table, because this is just one instance. There are more that's coming down the pipe. And the courthouse complex fund has been taken advantage of over the years because of the surplus. Because that's our go-to. We need to fix this, let's go here. We need to fix this, let's go here. When that well runs dry, you can call an emergency meeting, but it's not going to be to shut down a parking garage. It's going to be because you don't have no money to operate. You have to close more than a parking garage. So I'm in favor of making sure we protect the public, but I just want to make sure that everyone else knows that we're depleting, and we're depleting, and we're depleting, and we're depleting at a speed that you ain't going to have another year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You ain't going to have another term to fix it. Laura's presentation the other day showed you running close to a year, year and a half if you're lucky on some of these funds. So we've talked about putting one parish, we talked about getting everybody to the table, but it's got to happen. It's going to have to happen soon, because this is $400,000. You got land that just came available. Total repair estimate $1.7 million. You got Festival International in a serious situation with what causes, it's a domino effect is what's happening. So just want the parish council to realize that our backs are going to get thrown up against the wall quite often. And I'm afraid we're going to have more emergency meetings, because as the funding goes down and these issues continue to happen, we're going to have to, we won't be able to go to the courthouse complex fund pretty long. So we have to figure something out. So I don't know what we need to do at this point, but I'm glad to call the meeting. You know, you reached out to me, and it's important, and we need to get this done. But there's just, I'm looking down the road. And I've been here long enough to see it coming down the road where things like this happen. And it's a serious situation. It's nothing to play with. It is very risky. So I'm going to give the floor to Councilman Gilbo, and then we have Councilman Carlson to chime in. So I'm in favor of fixing the situation and taking down the panels. So I'm going to support it, but it's just disturbing what we're up against. And I don't think it's wasteful spending that got us here. I think it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and we're going to have to fix it. Councilman Gilbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fred, I'd really be surprised if anyone would question the report that you have brought before us, and I do appreciate it. I think the thing that disappoints me is the amount of time that it has taken for us to get to this point, and at a price to the taxpayer. And again, the story is not fully told at this point. There's still a lot of unknowns, per your comments earlier, and I appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, thank you for bringing this to our attention, you and your staff. You know, our chair is correct. I mean, we're bleeding this turnip. You know, when are we going to, you know, get proactive and try to turn this financial situation around? But as I sit here, I have additional concerns, Fred, and I'm not looking for a response right now, but at least for the record, I'd like to put a few questions before us that we probably should consider, probably some of them that you have already answered and probably are aware of, but just for the record, the removal of these panels will certainly give us a safer structure, I think, without a doubt. I think you have said that. But are there other potential threats that exist even after those panels have been removed? Now, certainly we won't know that until we do further inspection. Is the structural integrity or loss of load carrying capacity being compromised at this point in time?
I would say that,
Just for the record, okay?
That's fine.
Because we could go on, but I just want to put this on the record, okay? And I know through your investigation and everything else, this is all surface, but down the road, I hope that we will get a response. Have the materials that were initially placed in this structure withstood the test of time? And I think what we're hearing today, even these clips have not. Are there other materials within there? It could be the bolts, it could be the hinges, whatever it might be in that building. Are they failing us? And I think from some of the pictures that I have already been presented with, I think there probably are. So there are a lot of issues that continues to, and this is, and I think you have answered it, but I think once we do further investigation, is it the professional community's opinion that the building has met the desired service life? Can it be salvaged? Now, to wrap up, yes, I am, Mr. Mayor President, concerned with the safety of our community, very concerned, as well as the costs to the taxpayer. There is a burden there. It is a dangerous eyesore. I don't think anybody would dispute that. I call it an ugly camel that just towers over our downtown area right now. And it's probably a haven for our homeless, a potential health issue for the community, probably a cozy home for our rodents at this point in time, and any other undesirable activities that we could probably think of at this point. It has been closed since 2018. And in that assessment, it said, quote unquote, concerns were raised. I would like to know what those concerns were way back when. Apparently somebody saw something, either through a visual inspection or an official inspection, that raised concerns. And here we are 2 years later, just coming around to it. With this 2020 inspection, you mentioned that a visual inspection was made. It was performed. Did that surface any concerns that we should be aware of in addition to the panels? Now, I know it's just visual. It's not, you know, the scientific method that y'all go through to make that determination. But again, the materials, just everything that's involved in that building, holding that structure together. Sometimes you can just see major cracks in the walls or in the drive or whatever it is, and it will give you pause. Have any major deficiencies been identified over the life of this building to date? And if so, what are they? Listen, I don't want to see another Hard Rock event like we saw in New Orleans. And it almost seems like it's sitting there as a potential problem. Again, I'll ask the question, has the structure become dilapidated to the point of no return? What next after the removal of these panels? This is, without a doubt, a valuable piece of property, an important piece of property that needs to be placed back into our economy in order to complement our courthouse complex. As it stands today, this is a costly investment. I am sitting here asking myself, do we justify to continue to nurse this ugly camel, an eyesore with a dried out monetary hump on its back? Or do we become proactive to reintroduce it into the marketplace? Are we ready to do that? I am of the personal belief that we have squeezed, and we have squeezed that hump, that financial hump, into a pimple or less. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councilman Carlson, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions. Do we have plans after these panels are removed to do another engineering assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that we will do that. Then we'll know, is it more feasible to demolish the structure, to repair it, whatever the case might be?
Yes, sir. And also, it is our hope, and Councilman Gilbo, thank you for for those questions. I know some may be rhetorical in stance just to get us thinking, but also legitimate nonetheless. And the idea here, the goal is remove these assessments, remove these panels, reassess the situation, and you never know. Maybe just with a little bit of cleanup, we can put it back in commerce, we can put it back into use. Maybe the next question is, should we demolish it, or should we look into the private sector? We don't know those answers, and that's the honest answer. We don't know those answers, but we do know this. No matter what option you do, no matter what option we go with, we have to remove the panels. And at this point, and look, I should have let in with the thank you to Fred, because it was Fred's gut feeling to say, something's not right here. Something's not right. Let's go reassess it. He reached out to Director Abney and got the ball rolling. Like I said, last week he gave us a report Thursday. By Friday, we set out the emergency meeting, and with the chair, appreciate you, Mr. Chair, setting this emergency hearing today, or emergency meeting today. And we're trying to be as proactive. We are being as proactive as we possibly can together with this council. All legitimate questions, but the only answer I can tell you is no matter what route we go, these panels have to go. And I tell you, I hope it's the magic trick. We remove these concrete panels and we can put it back to use. That would be fantastic.
I will say, I think I appreciate you pushing for this meeting. I mean, this parking garage is nearly 40 years old. I don't think this corrosion happened in the last 2 years, but we've known about this for almost 2 years, and yet no action's been taken. So I appreciate that. For the gentleman, I'm not sure if he's still here, that spoke about Festival International, and maybe Ms. Begno, you can speak to it. How does having a construction crane and that impact Festival International? I mean, I guess the alternative isn't great either. We can't leave these up, but how is this going to impact Festival if construction goes beyond 30 days?
And Councilman, as Stephen's walking up, so again, our goal is to remove these panels before Festival. That's ideal. It may not happen. If we cannot remove these panels, then we will do everything possible, and we can work with the contractors to get any obstacles outside of the way. Festival is important, and we have a whole bunch of cameras out here. We are inviting you to come to Lafayette for Festival International. We need you to come to Festival International. It's going to be a great time. It might be the best festival we've ever had, right?
That's right.
Okay, so we're on agreement. So because we know it'll be a great time, we also want it to be a safe time, and that's why we're here. But again, we will take all measures possible to get these things removed before Festival, and this is a moot question at that point. If it's not, if we don't have all of them removed, we'll have the most severe ones removed, working our way down. And if we still have cranes and other obstacles in way, then we will do everything we can and work with Festival, work with downtown to remove these obstacles so that we can have the best festival that we possibly can. And we will.
Yeah, I mean,
Did I answer that for you?
A lot of it. Yeah, I mean, so certainly having cranes on site would pose challenges for us. So once we get into the project, I think that would be up to us to work hand in hand with the city and Public Works just to try to do anything strategically that we're able to help. So.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
And one last thing, really, I know that the courthouse complex fund seems to be the only place that we go to repeatedly because they have the money, and I'd like to make sure that this property, in whatever form it looks like in the future and whatever action goes forward, should be used to benefit the courthouse and the courthouse complex. We keep using their money to remove these panels, and my understanding is that this building is part of the courthouse complex.
Yes.
But if we remove these panels, we've got to make sure that we're heading somewhere that actually leads to that money being put to good use and not just removing some panels and it remains in the current state where it's not benefiting the courthouse, it's not benefiting the public. So I want to make sure we're heading in that direction. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing too is if we sell it, we put it back in a commerce, whatever money we've taken from the courthouse complex, we should make sure we put that back, So I guess, Fred, my question is, from the Huval and Associates investigation or inspection in 2018, how much difference did you see from 2018 to now?
I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% more.
Just due to weather, just sitting there?
Yeah. Well, those panels are an obstacle towards relieving the water the driving rain that goes through the open end of the thing. If you look, the area that's fully enclosed is the least susceptible to that type of situation. And fortunately, it's on the side of,
In that inspection back then, 2 years ago. Did they recommend removing the panels at that point, or it was just we closed the parking garage?
They recommended removal of the panel to stop the deterioration. And I kind of want to make a point here, is the other two reports were more concentrated on the condition of the structure, not the panels.
Wouldn't the panels be part of the construction?
Well, but the emphasis was on the columns, the beams, and the slabs.
Okay.
And there was a secondary that you have to remove the panels. So the discussion wasn't broadened, if you would, about the panels because it was simply remove them versus the report said this is what we're probably looking at in terms of the beams, the columns, the slabs. When I became involved, my concern was shifted, if you would, to those panels being a safety issue. It wasn't about the condition of the garage and whether it was salvageable or not. When I became involved, my emphasis shifted maybe on the safety. And that's when we concentrated on expanding the report to include the actual connections of those concrete panels. And that's where it became a condition report versus an emergency condition situation.
Because of the hinges and the way the panels were on the verge of.
The attachment.
The
areas.
attachment. Gotcha. Lori, 2 years ago, did we not try to find the funding to take those panels down? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is a good question. Why we didn't take care of this 2 years ago, if it was quote unquote?
Well, you absolutely did put me on the spot because I wasn't involved in this 2 years ago. I wasn't privy to the studies or any of that information. So unfortunately, I'm not able to help you, but we can certainly look into it.
Yeah, I mean, this is another example of kicking the can down the road.
I would disagree. I think this is maybe the first time in this structure's history that we might be proactive on an incident.
In regards to you taking office, I agree. I am just saying.
You took office too.
Yeah, I did, but.
And so do these four gentlemen. This is good. This is good teamwork between two co-equal branches of government being ahead of an issue. This is not political. I want to protect Democrats and Republicans from the concrete panels falling.
I'm just simply saying.
I get your point, Councilman. I think what you're saying is, why didn't we do this before? We don't know.
We should have done this 2 years ago.
Sure, we all agree
with a
with
study.
We all agree with
And
you.
it wasn't brought to the council when I was on council to remove panels. It was closing the garage.
Understood.
So it's just one of those things. I just
It's
scratch
frustrating.
your head. It's frustrating because at the end of the day, this could have been handled 2 years ago, and you wouldn't be putting festival on the spot. You wouldn't be having the issues that you're having. But I'm serious. If this thing turns into commerce or you find a solution, the courthouse complex is gonna have to get repaid for all of the stuff that we keep taking from them, because they have just as much issues as anybody else. And I just want to make sure that whatever happens, we can put that $400,000 back, or we're going to continue to use that as our piggy bank because the general fund only has $50,000. So you have no reserve right now. You have absolutely no reserve in the parish. So what we do is we bleed in all of the millages. We take everything we can from everybody else, but we're not fixing the problem. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it, you know? So, all right, let's see. Councilman Rubin.
All right, thank you. For the record, I just want to make sure that y'all understand, I'm all about the safety of our community. I don't have no problem with supporting what's going on, but I just want to make sure wanted to plant that seed to piggyback on Chairman Nakaz. We need to put that money back by any means necessary. You know, so I just want to make sure on the record, we need to take care of these guys. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to be creative. They're going to get upset sooner or later, and they won't have anything left. You know, so I just wanted to put that on the record that I am for the safety of the community.
Councilman Gibble.
I just want to thank all the individuals that have engaged in this conversation, because I asked Fred a number of questions, and I was not asking for a response, but I think most of my questions have been answered just through the discussion, and I appreciate that. And again, I would hope, Fred, that we would keep those in mind as we go forward, because some of the things I was asking about 2 years ago gives me pause. And certainly, Mr. Mayor, you have been proactive on this, and I do appreciate that. And I think we have worked well to make it happen. And I hear the concerns of our chair, why not 2 years ago? But that's behind us now. What are we going to do now to make sure that we have a safe facility, and can we put it back into the marketplace? And if that's the case, then we need to look towards those goals. But again, thanks for the conversation. You helped me to get some of my answers, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
All right. Before we move on, I just want to say I'm very happy that this is moving forward. I'm not trying to go back and live in the past. We all know we can't go back. But as long as I've been here for 8 years, there's some things that frustrate me a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do appreciate your leadership in the role, and thank you, Fred, and I thank everybody involved in making sure we address this. This is important. So with that said, I'm good. We're going to move forward. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. Anything else in closing?
No, Mr. Chair, except, and I appreciate the kind words, but it is reciprocal, and I think the public can see a good exercise. Again, I keep saying this, co-equal branches of government. No, the administration can't do things on our own. Council can't do things on your own. This takes a coordinated effort, and it's there. And I hope the public can be reassured that we're not looking in the past, like you said, but doesn't mean we're not frustrated on certain things, but we're looking in the future, and I appreciate your partnership and your teamwork on these very important issues, and I mean that.
Thank you, sir. Okay. V, will you help me where we at? Public comment on as amended. Okay.
First speaker, Scott Feehan, followed by Lisa Stafford.
Scott passes.
Scott passes. Lisa? She passes. Virgil Reed? He passes. Van Gotro? Pass. No other speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Let's call for the vote on the ordinance as amended.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Motion to adopt as amended is approved.
Okay. We move to introductory ordinance. Chairman, please read.
Parish Ordinance 11, 2020, an ordinance of the Lafayette Parish Council recognizing and ratifying the declaration and certification of a public emergency as stated in Emergency Parish Ordinance Number PO 10-2020 due to the condition of the Buchanan Street parking garage, providing for the removal of concrete panels from the Buchanan Street parking garage, and providing for amending the fiscal year 1920 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by authorizing the use of courthouse complex funds in the parish general fund in the amount of $400,000 for the cost of such emergency work.
Any comments from the public on introductory ordinance?
No, sir.
Okay. Need a motion in a second? Motion by Councilman Carlson and second by Councilman Rubin. There is a proposed amendment to add the budget revision to the ordinance backup. Ask for a motion and a second on proposed amendment.
And the name.
An additional amendment in the title to take out the general fund.
Yes.
The wording.
All of that
So-
included.
Yes, sir.
And that
Thank you.
motion by Councilman Carlson and second by Councilman Rubin. Okay. Any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none. Any comment? Okay. Call a vote on the amendment, please.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 1? Yes. Motion to amend is approved.
Not seeing any council discussion on the ordinance as amended. Any speakers on the ordinance as amended?
No, sir.
Okay. Please call the vote for the council to introduce the ordinance as amended.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? Yes. District 1? Yes. Motion to introduce as amended is approved.
Okay. Just want to remind everyone that this ordinance will be on the April 7th Parish Council meeting agenda for final adoption. We adjourn the emergency Parish Council meeting. Thank y'all for coming out. Appreciate it.